I'm Anthony L. Elmore, President and founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association. We are not only the Black Buddhist voice in America, but we are the Black Buddhist voice in the world. And today, we bring you another one of our exciting Black Buddhist lectures. Now, we purposely take our Buddhist practice out of the realm of Asian teachers, and we bring and teach Buddhism from our Black cultural perspective. My lecture today is a Black Buddhist Direct Path to Enlightenment by Anthony Elmore. We who are Buddhists, we practice the Buddhism of Nichiren Shonin, the 13th century Black Japanese Buddhist sage. Now, it was Nichiren who challenged the Buddhism of his day. He challenged all the Buddhism of Japan. Now, please understand that Buddhism did not get to Japan until 1400 years after the death of the Buddha. In fact, Buddhism never made it to China until 1,000 years after the death of the Buddha. However, Buddhism was in Africa at the same time almost that it was in India. Now, it was only when I became a Nichiren Buddhist that I began to get so much away from the esoteric or the spiritual aspects of Buddhism. I used to practice old Japanese Shotokan karate, and I practiced Zen Buddhism. We used to meditate in icy waters. I had to break my knuckles on a concrete wall, and I live an esoteric existence like I was a real live Buddhist monk. When I was 19 years old, I was not your normal, everyday African American when I was, even a teenager. Now, it was only when I embraced the Buddhist teachings as taught by Nichiren Shonin and the Lotus Sutra that I began to normalize my life. Now, there's a Gosho. Now, the Gosho are letters that Nichiren wrote to his disciples to teach them Buddhism. And the first Gosho that he wrote is called On Attaining Buddhahood in This Lifetime. And it reads, quote, "If you wish to free yourself from the sufferings of birth and death you have endured since time without beginning and attained without fail unsurpassed enlightenment in this lifetime, you must perceive the mystic truth that is originally inherent in all living beings. This truth is Myoho Renge Kyo. Chanting Myoho Renge Kyo will therefore enable you to grasp the mystic truth innate in all life." Now, what this means, ladies and gentlemen, through the practice of Nichiren Buddhism, we get a comprehensive and a scientific understanding of universal phenomena. Now, in fact, we proud Black Buddhists do not engage in the traditionally known practice of quiet meditation. Now, let me explain something. Now, understand, when you look at Buddhists and all you see is some Asian on a mountain meditating, and we think Buddhism is about meditating, well, this is what Nichiren writes in the Gosho. He writes, quote, now the Gosho, you can look it up, it's titled The Doctrine of the 3,000 Realms, and it reads, quote, "Shannon Daimoku, or title of the Lotus Sutra, is the same as carried out meditation. Ignorant persons may find this difficult to believe, but the second volume of Great Concentration and Insight by Tentai has a passage regarding recitation and silence, in which the word recitation refers to recitation of the Lotus Sutra, and silence to the practice of meditation or contemplation. And again, in the first volume of the meaning of the four teachings, Tentai states, quote, Not only are such practices as recitation not a needless waste of effort, they are essential in enabling one to grasp the principle involved, unquote. Now, Nichiren further writes, quote, in the Lotus Sutra we find the doctrine directly stated. We find it taught through similes, and we find it taught through an explanation of causes and conditions in the past. In passages where the doctrine is directly stated, the original purpose for which the Buddha appeared in the world is set forth. The direct path by which all living beings can attain Buddhahood. And Daimoku represents the cause and conditions that permits not only us, but all living beings to proceed directly to the place of enlightenment. You see, Daimoku is chanting Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. See, through chanting Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, we and all other living beings can find a direct path to enlightenment. He goes on further. He says, the Zen school reveres the practice of meditation or observation of the mind as the original purpose for which the Buddha appeared in the world, when in fact it is only one aspect of the four guidelines mentioned earlier. If meditation on the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life and the threefold contemplation in a single mind were in fact the heart and core of the Lotus Sutra, then the 10 factors would have been mentioned in the Daimoku, or title of the sutra. But of course, the Daimoku is simply Myoho Renge Kyo, so there is no need for any further discussion. You see, ladies and gentlemen, meditation is only one aspect of the Buddhist teachings and not the entirety of Buddhism. You see, Nichiren Shonin teaches us that Namo Myoho Renge Kyo is the only direct path to enlightenment. Now, although you may think that what you do is insignificant, but the causes and effects that you make is enough to actually change the destiny of a nation. See, knowing this, you or we as black people can actually change the world, and that this should give us confidence in our Buddhist faith. Let me take a little bit further. You see, let me make a very controversial statement, and then you will come to understand what I mean. You see, it will not be Asians and it will not be white people who will change Buddhism or bring the major changes in Buddhism to where it can spread again all around the world. Asians will not do it and whites will not do it, but it will be black people who will make the difference in Buddhism. And I'll explain to you why. There's a Go Show. And the Go Show, again, are the writings of Nichiren Shonin. And there's a Go Show called The True Aspect of All Phenomena. And it reads, quote, question, the expedient means chapter in the first volume of the Lotus Sutra states, the true aspect of all phenomena can only be understood and shared between Buddhas. This reality consists of appearance, nature, and their consistency from beginning to the end. What does this passage mean? Answer. It means that all beings and environments in the 10 worlds, from hell to the lowest to Buddhahood, the highest are without exception manifestations of Myoho Renge Kyo. If there is an environment, living beings are bound to dwell there. A commentary states, quote, living beings and their environments always manifest Myoho Renge Kyo. Another says, The true aspect invariably manifests in all phenomena, and all phenomena invariably manifest in the 10 factors. The 10 factors invariably manifest in the 10 worlds, and the 10 worlds invariably manifest in life and environment. And both the beings and the environment of the Archie Hell exists entirely within the life of the highest sage Buddha, and what is more, the life and the environment of the Vajrayana Buddha never transcends the life of common mortals. These explanations are precise and clear. Who could have no doubts? Thus, the entire realm of phenomena is no different than the 5 characters of Myoho Renge Kyo. Now, we who are Nichiren Buddhists, we understand phenomena from the standpoint of Ichinin Sanzen, or the 3,000 realms in a momentary state of existence. You see, Buddhism is not some Asian on a mountain meditating, but the essence of Buddhism is Myoho Renge Kyo, and the essence of Myoho Renge Kyo is the 3,000 realms in a momentary state of existence. Let me see, can I explain cause and effect to you this way? You see, picture this in your mind. All phenomena or an occurrence has an appearance. That appearance has a nature. The appearance and the nature comes into creates an entity. The entity has a power. The power has an influence. The influence in turn has an inherent cause. That inherent cause has a relationship. And that relationship has a latent effect. And the latent effect has a manifest effect, and all of this is consistent from the beginning to the end. Now, no matter what phenomena or no matter what happens in the world, there's these 10 aspects that we explain in Ichinen Sanzen. Now, out of the 10 aspects, you got 10 aspects, but you also have what we explain in Buddhism, 10 worlds. The worlds are conditions or of life. For example, there's the world of hell. There is a world called hell, but then there's a condition called hunger, which is number 2. And then number 3, there's a condition called animality, to where we act on our instincts. So you got hell, hunger, animality. And then you got the 4th, which is called anger. We all know what anger is. But then you got the 5th world, which is the world of humanity. Nothing good, nothing bad. But then you got the 6th world, which is the world of heaven. Now, then you go into, that's the 6 lower worlds, and then you go to the 4 higher worlds, and that's the world of learning. That's the 7th world. Then you go into the 8th world, that's the world of self-realization. That's what our scholars and our artists, they can comprehend things through self-realization. Now, the 9th world is the higher world of the worlds that we Buddhas go into. That is the world of Bodhisattva. And the best way to explain Bodhisattva is being Christ-like. And the 10th world, that's the world of enlightenment, which is your highest life condition. Now, all human beings have these worlds, and each of the 10 worlds exist in each world. So you have 10 worlds that exist in each world, which comes to 100 worlds times the 10 aspects, which gives you 1,000 worlds. Now, from the 1,000 worlds, we all have 3 realms. Now, the 3 realms, the first realm is the realm of the 5 components. That is, we have this realm. For example, you have a form, then you perceive. You got form, perception, you got conception, then you have a volition, and then you have a consciousness. That's the realm of the 5 components. And then you have the realm of your environment, and then you got the realm of the environment. So when you take the 1,000 worlds times the 3 realms, that gives you 3,000 worlds. And nothing outside of the universe is not a part of the 3,000 worlds. This means that there are animate and inanimate objects. Both experience the 3,000 worlds. Whereas this object, which is an object, but it too manifests the 3,000 worlds. Animate and inanimate objects manifest this. Now, in plain and simple terms, all phenomena good and bad is myoho renge kyo, or an expression of the law of cause and effect. When I was in college in 1972, there was a man by the name of Reverend James Bevel. Bevel was the guy who came up with the Montgomery to Selma to Montgomery March. And after King had died, he was in Memphis and I heard him. I quit college to join James Bevel. But something happened in America. You see, James Bevel was a college student and he went down, straight down, just about 60 miles from Memphis in Indianola, Mississippi. And he met a woman by the name, he met this black woman. Her name was an uneducated black woman, but he talked to her. Her name was Fannie Lou Hamer. And the reason that I mentioned Fannie Lou Hamer to you, ladies and gentlemen, is that Fannie Lou Hamer was born the same year as President Kennedy. She was born in 1917, and she heard Reverend James Bevel, and they says, you in Mississippi should go out and vote. And the people in Mississippi were afraid to go vote. Now imagine, we live in the United States of America, and black people would get killed not for doing anything, just to register to vote. And Fannie Lou Hamer and a few of black people, they went to vote, and they went to register to vote, and she was working a job. Do you know this woman got fired? But instead of me telling you the story of Fannie Lou Hamer, I'm going to let Fannie Lou Hamer tell you the story. I did a movie called Robert Hollywood Rayford, Black America, USA, and I kind of recorded this part of the Fannie Lou Hamer story. And the reason that I want you to understand Fannie Lou Hamer is because we, as black people, must become bodhisattvas of the earth. See, a bodhisattva is not necessarily because you're a Buddhist. A bodhisattva is a person who has the actions of the compassion of a Buddha. See, when you have a compassion to go out and do what is right, that is what makes you a bodhisattva, not because what you call yourself, but it's how you act. Let's watch Fannie Lou Hamer, and we're going to come back, because the reason that I want you to watch Fannie Lou Hamer is that, you see, during the time of John Kennedy getting elected, there was so much pressure on the Kennedy administration because black people, every time you look on the television, you see black people, it was a time that the black people was getting into the movement, and not only did the black people get into the movement, the black people got into the movement, and what this did was this woke up the compassionate or the moral character of white America, and white kids began to join the movement. In fact, in Mississippi, they did what was called the Freedom Rides. Young whites out of the north came to Mississippi to help the black people because the Ku Klux Klan and the white racists was killing black people, and these young white students would come there to help these black folk get registered because they wanted to see a new America. It was a John Kennedy administration that changed. Let's look at Fannie Lou Hamer, and we're going to come back and get more into our Black Buddhist lecture, Let's watch Fannie Lou Hamer. We're going to come back. There was a woman just down the road from Mount Bayou, Mississippi in Sunflower County, born in 1917 by the name of Fannie Lou Hamer.
1st of August to try to register. And after I had gotten back home, Mr. Marlowe told me that I would have to go down and withdraw my registration or leave because they wasn't ready for that in Mississippi. And I said, Mr. Marlowe, I'm trying to register for myself. So I had to leave that same night after I had gone down in August. And then I spent one night with Mrs. Tucker, and after about 2 days in September, they shot in the house 15 times.
Was encouraged by Fannie Lou Hamer. In 1963, she went to an activist workshop in South Carolina, and on her way back home, they arrested her in Winnebago, Mississippi. The white racists took billy clubs and beat Fannie Lou Hamer mercilessly. I mean, they almost killed her. But Fannie Lou Hamer inspired certainly blacks, but she inspired young whites to come to Mississippi to help blacks to register to vote. This was called the Freedom Summer Initiative of 1964. You should know the story of the courageous black woman Fannie Lou Hamer. 3 youth helping out in the Mississippi Freedom Summers, helping blacks to get registered to vote, were murdered in Mississippi.
I'm sick and tired of going to the funerals of black men who have been murdered by white men.
They are powerless against us if every single Anglo-Saxon Christian one of us stands together.
The rest of America don't see it that way, Mr. Mayor.
The rest of America don't mean a damn thing. You in Mississippi now.
You had us scared to death, man.
Don't you call me man, boy.
Did it ever occur to them they're gonna end up dead?
The moment those 3 kids disappeared, it was news.
The moment the 3 civil rights workers disappeared, it was news.
Something's so right in the sand, now get out of here!
You'd kill Frank? Is that what you're saying? I wouldn't give it no more thought than wringing a cat's neck.
These people crawled out of a sewer, Mr. Ward!
We do not accept Jews because they reject Christ. We do not accept Papists because they bow to a Roman dictator. We do not accept Turks, Orientals, nor Negroes.
We're not killers. That's the difference between them and us.
That's the difference between them and you. Did you smile when the bulldozer ran over the black kid's body?
We're here to protect Anglo-Saxon democracy and the American way.
What's wrong with these people?
1964, when America was at war with itself.
July 2nd, 1964, just days after the youth got killed in Mississippi, Dr. King and others helped to get the Civil Rights Act of 1964 passed, ending legal segregation in America. This was the most significant legislation in America since Reconstruction. You watch the story of Fannie Lou Hamer. You see, there was no let up in the Kennedy administration. You see, Dr. Martin Luther King not only attracted black people, but white people joined the movement. While white Christians and Jews could no longer be silent, and it was on April the 16th, 1963, that Dr. Martin Luther King was locked up in the Birmingham jail, and he wrote a letter from the Birmingham jail where he made his famous quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." See, what was the tactic and strategy of Dr. Martin Luther King? See, the strategy was to show the hate and the immorality of white action in America. See, Dr. King appealed to the moral consciousness of America. This is where you got to come to understand Buddhism. It is the Buddhist teachings that let us know that we have a Buddha nature. But now, how they confuse the Buddha nature is that they don't talk in words that we understand. See, another word for Buddha nature is just a moral consciousness. Now, what Dr. Martin Luther King was able to do with the freedom fighters and all the movement and all the action that was going on in America, Martin Luther King and the activists, both black and white, appealed to the moral consciousness, or the Buddha nature in Hebrew. It was what we in Buddhism call Buddha nature, or our moral conscience that changed John F. Kennedy. It was the Buddha nature of these men that led them to believe that we must build a better America, that we must have civil rights legislation, that we must fight for the right of everybody. We must live with the Constitution that our founding fathers did. And nobody did this any better than Fannie Lou Hamer and the Freedom Summers. Now, let's take you to August the 28th, 1963. John Kennedy was watching this out of his White House, out of one of the White House, but on August the 28th, 1963, both black and white, they had a march on Washington. And this is the time when Dr. Martin Luther King delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech. This is what people who learn Buddhism from Asians miss the point. Whether you believe or practice the Buddhist religion, we all have a Buddha nature. It was Dr. Martin Luther King's Buddha nature that allowed him to deliver I Have a Dream speech. A Christian would say Dr. King expressed his Christian nature. A Christian nature or a Buddha nature, it is only semantics, it's the same thing. The image of Buddhism that we know in America is some Asian monk on some mountain meditating. This is not true Buddhism of the Lotus Sutra Shakyamuni. The Gosho, the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra reads, quote, but persons of the two vehicles have annihilated consciousness and therefore cannot arouse the mind that inspires enlightenment. And yet, the Lotus Sutra can cure them. This is why it is called Myo or wonderful. You see, these suckers that sit up on a mountain who call themselves Buddhists, that ain't no Buddhism. That's annihilated consciousness where they have trained their minds not to feel anything. How could you go and change the world when you don't have no feeling? You don't have no compassion for the other people. This is why in Buddhism, the Japanese and the Asians and the whites have educated all black Buddhist history from the Buddhist religion because they don't have no consciousness. That's why these black people who practice Buddhism can follow Daisaki Kano, sing a song to some sensei, because they don't have a consciousness. They have annihilated consciousness. Even though they're sitting down there chatting, their minds are blank. They are dumb. They're ignorant. They're not practicing the Lotus Sutra. They're practicing Asian culture. But anyway, we're going to conclude this lecture. I think you got it. I think you got that it was white people who came to help and join the fight. And it's only when we black people stand up and fight that we can wake up the moral consciousness of not only of America, we can wake up the moral consciousness of the world and be the Buddhists who we're supposed to be. I am Anthony F. Elmore, President and founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association, bringing you a Black Buddhist lecture. Thank you very much.